in English, jointly organized by Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, Telhara, District Akola, Maharashtra State, Department of English and Internal Quality Assurance Cell, in collaboration with the Department of English and IQAC of Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, District Buldana. First of all, I express my humble homage to Honorable Dr. Punjabrao alias Bhausaheb Deshmukh, great educationist, agriculturist, and founder president of Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, and Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar. I cordially invite all the participants to this conference, all the dignitaries, our chief patron, Honorable President Sri Harshvardhan Deshmukh Sahib, President of Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, Chairperson of today's inaugural session, Honorable Advocate Sri Gajananrao Punkar Sir, Vice President of Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, and Chairperson of College Development Committee. The inaugurator, Honorable Dr. Murlidhar G. Wadekar Sir, Joint Director, Amravati Division, Higher Education, Amravati Division, Amravati. I also cordially invite Honorable Dr. Vasisht Chobe Sir, Chairman, Board of Studies, Sant Gadge Baba, Amravati University, Amravati. Professor Dinesh Kumar, resource person of today's inaugural session. Professor Dr. Gopal Dhole Sir, Principal Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, Telhara, Principal Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary Sir, Principal of Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, Honorable Keynote Speakers, Dr. Amar Singh, Dr. Amarnath Prasad Sir, and all the dignitaries and participants, researchers, faculty members and students are cordially welcome to this inaugural function of one-day national virtual conference on Indian sensibility on in Indian writing in English. I also warmly welcome all those chief guests who have joined: Dr. Vijay Darne Sir, Dr. Sanjay Tale Sir, Advocate Vishwaswar Nerkar Sir, Professor Nagesh Singde Sir, Professor Sato Sir, Dr. Khudke Sir. First of all, I request Professor R.S. Sudke Sir, Head of the Department of English, to deliver an introductory speech of today's inaugural session. Over to Dr. R.S. Sudke Sir to deliver his speech, introductory speech.
के बारे में पता करना था। शरद मिश्रा के नाम से आप शरद चंद्र मिश्रा वो भेजा था, आपने बोला था कि 2-3 दिन में आ जाएगा।
First of all, I would like to welcome you all in virtual conference on Indian society in English, organized by Dr. Mahavidyalay, Department of English, IPC, and Art Gopalrao Khedkar Union Minister Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar, our head of Honorable Shivaranjan Deshmukh Sahib, President of the Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, Director of Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati. Chairperson of this function, Honorable Dr. Muralidhar Wadekar Sir, Joint Director of Higher Education, Amravati Division, Amravati. Guest of honor, Dr. Sushish Chobe Sir, Chairman, UOM NGA, Amravati. Keynote speaker, Dr. Amar Singh Sir, Professor of Government College, Chapra MP. Another keynote speaker and well-known writer, Dr. Amarnath Prasad Sir, Professor of Gandham College, Mr. Dinesh Kumar, Assistant Professor of English, Singh College, Haryana. Organizer of this conference, Dr. Warwat Bakal, who is the principal of Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar College, Telhara. Another organizer of this conference, Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary Sir, Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, Dr. Sanjay Tale Sir, who is the vice principal of Warwat Bakal College. And conveners of this conference, Dr. Gopal Jandadekar, Professor Nishigand Sato, and all delegates present over here. Friends, when we at a time that Indian society describes author's feelings of being an Indian, whether he lives in India or lives abroad. Indian writing in English reflects the author's cultural, socio-political, and whatever the genre, poetry, drama, fiction, or even essays, this unique identity mirrored in Indian writing in English. Indian sensibility drawn from Indian life cycle, value, and morality. Indian sensibility means the prominent qualities that the poet represents in his literary work as an Indian. Indian sensibility can be defined as Indianness, life attitude, and mode of perception. According to Professor Indianness is a composite awareness in the matter of race, Indianness is nothing but depiction of Indian culture. Indianness is the sum total of cultural pattern of India, rooted in ideas which form the minds of India. And brought no exceptions to it because they have naturally and in the Indian culture and tradition. It is a well-known fact that sometimes a writer's surroundings inspire him to a considerable extent for bringing forth his literary works. Being an Indian and born and brought up in India, how can a writer remain untouched from Indian perspective or Indianness? One of the major characteristics of Indian sensibility is to believe in humanitarian perspective of global harmony. Discuss to maintain international famous Indian poet also Tagore says some feelings of oneness of togetherness. The super impact of Indian myths.
हेलो
Indian writing
बाकी जैसे फोन म्यूट करा
of festive seasons and occasions is another.
कुंडकर साहेब म्हणतात आवाज नाही येत आहे. कुंडकर साहेब म्हणतात आवाज नाही येत आहे. Recording बंद करा.
India is the country, friends. Just a minute, there is a technical problem.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, we start with the topic of the conference that is related to Indian sensibility. And first of all, we need to discuss these two terms, Indianness and the term sensibility. What is the meaning of these two terms? So the term Indianness, it has been discussed in the corridor of English literature by various scholars, critics, and writers as per their taste, temperament, and angle of perception. So, in totality, what should we say that Indianness, it is related to the socio-cultural pattern of India, the deep seated political spiritual beliefs which are deep-rooted in the Indian, the psyche of the Indian people, and also the philosophical ideas like spiritual, social, economic, and political. And all these ideas, these ideology constitute the very mind of the Indian people, which categorically is different from the rest of the world and are reflected in the fast growing body of literature that we come across these days. And but the Indians are, you can say, not you can say witnessing these changes, this growing body of which is reflected in the Indian literature. So Indianness, it can also be explored in the terms of an author's feeling of being an Indian, whether he lives in India or he lives in abroad. So Indian writers have a tradition and a community value that gives them a sense of special identity. They are deep rooted in Indian Indian environment. And when they write about their beliefs, their ideology, myths, and also the urban societies, their religio-philosophic bonds of mind. And in the Indian writing, in the midst of the differences, expression through English. English is the language in which they are, you can say, conveying their ideas, and which is a foreign language. And it is very difficult to define this term Indian sensibility or Indian experience, we should say. So while defining Indian, that it is a very difficult term and it is very a problematic task for everyone to describe this term Indianness of the, because in Indian culture we find diversity in case of languages, diversity in case of culture. So on the basis of, we can say, these two elements, culture and language, which are, you can say, to be found in Indian society, it is very difficult to define, we can say, this term Indianness. So Indian writing in English, it is a very rich reservoir. We find content, imagery, and style which are totally imbued in Indianness written by the Indian writers. Indian writing in English reflect the author's cultural, socio-political, and religious background, whether the genre, poetry, drama, fiction, or even essays also. So this unique identity of the Indian authors, it has been reflected through their writings, that they are, you can say, writing in their text. So we find that in uniqueness, there appear to be rare universality, which appeal to the lover of the literature all over the world. And some of the writers in India, they have made a very great impact on world literature as well. And they have also made the world, you can say, that people from every corner of the world, people from every culture in the world, they should recognize, they should take notice of Indian literature. And in these, you can say, writers, we can quote Rabindranath Tagore, R.K. Narayan, Girish Karnad, Nazim Ezekiel, and Mulk Raj Anand. And these writers, right from the beginning, they have continued to retain their nativity, and they have also, you can say, universal appeal, and also they continue to enthrall the readers with their realistic depiction of the Indian scene, the Indian environment that we come across. And Indianness as a concept of the Indian writer can be very well understood in terms of some writers like Raja Rao. Raja Rao, he lived in foreign can say countries for a long time, but he wrote, you can say, his novels based on Indian culture, as we find in his novel The Serpent and the Rope, where he has depicted the French, you can say, society, but at the same time, he did not, you can say, forget the Indian social setup. And we are also, you can say, familiar with his novel Kanthapura, which is totally replete in, you can say, Indianness. And also, in the, can say, latest, you can say, writers, we have Kiran Desai living in, you can say, foreign countries, and but she's also depicting the culture of, you can say, India, and other writers, you can say, Anita Desai, the mother of Kiran Desai, she's also living, sorry, abroad, but they are conscious about, you can say, their roots which are related to India, and that's why they are writing about the Indian culture and Indian value. So this is known as, you can say, Indianness. So more important than, you can say, these things, it is Indianness. It can be found in various form and shapes. While you can say going through the works of different writers, Indian writers, and it is, you can say, to be found in material, style, as well as the language that has been used by the writer. So one of the major aspect here is the use of imagery, the images. Images are also, you can say, especially by the Indian authors, are Indian imagery. And most of the Indian English poets, they use Indian imagery in their works. And the images of river, animal, mythical elements are typical Indian. And more important than material and imagery is the level of sensibility. So we come to the term, we can say, sensibility now. What does this term, we can say, connotes? What does this term sensibility defines? So sensibility in, you can say, broad perspective, it can be referred to an acute perception of the responsiveness towards something that we are giving our response. And sensibility, such as, you can say, the emotion or other. We are familiar with our senses, 5 types of senses, and what is the response of those senses towards the things, or you can say, person in Indian context. So this concept, the concept of sensibility, it has emerged in the 18th century Britain. It started in Britain, but it was closely associated with the study of sense perception as the means through which knowledge is gathered. And it has also become associated with the sentimental, you can say, moral philosophy. And Indian landscape, particularly, we come to know that Indian landscape has been constantly inspiring the Indian English novelists as well as the poets. Indianness can be seen in the depiction of some realistic details about the food habit that we come across, the clothes people they are talking about in their works, and even the hairstyle of the character or the speaker in the poem or in novel are also the part and parcel of this Indian sensibility. Indian society become pluralistic and multicultural in the postmodern time. At this time, after 1950s, that time period of a postmodern era. So modern is sensibility is marked by single and unified experience. Postmodern condition and postmodern sensibility become the reflected, which are reflected uh, in the concept novels and the poetry written by the Indian author. And at present, when we are passing through the can say internet revolution, and with the help of the internet revolution, it is possible to connect the world poets with each other. The Indian poets, they share his postmodern thought on the internet with the, you can say, other poets living in different part of the world, and the encounter of the Indian sensibility with the postmodern sensibility means the encounter or the clash between the Indian sensibility and the sensibility referred to other, you can say, poets living in other parts of the world. It resulted in the change in the Indian sensibility now. And how their perception is, you can say, this perception has been changed. Now, Indian sensibility has taken the shape of postmodern sensibility at present. So it also affects the very psyche of the Indian English poet, hence their works also, you can say, reflect the very psyche of the Indian English poet. And also, it is the reflection of postmodern sensibility. So, as a result of this revolutionary and inhibited work, we can say, comes out, we find some revolutionary changes in the concept of sensibility, or particularly Indian sensibility when we are talking about. So we will try to understand this concept of through the work of Nizam Ezekiel, who is an outstanding Indian poet who is writing in English. And like metaphysical poets and T.S. Eliot, Nizam Ezekiel believes that all art is based on conflict and contrast of opposites. So according to Ezekiel himself, the poet should try to say reconciled. So through a very common and ordinary Indian setting and situation that we find in the, you can say, poetry of Nizam Ezekiel, the poet tried to analyze the various themes of human significance. And in one of his poems, Nizam Ezekiel says, I quote, I want to acquire a human balance, humanly acquired, where the central thematic stream is composed of human relationship and human feelings in their most naked and penetrating style. That is why Nizam Ezekiel has rightly been called as a poet of urbanized way of living and thinking also, which makes him a poet of city also, not only a poet of metropolitan life.
Hello.
And if we go through the works of Nizam Ezekiel, then we will find that throughout his poetic career, he has remained conscious of his Jewish Bene Israel family background, which separated him from the core of Indian ethos. That is why he is a typical victim of rootlessness, a kind of rolling stone, who, after having been bogged down by a Muslim boy in a Roman Catholic convent school, he ran away to London in search of his identity and belongingness. But even in London also, his basement was shared by poverty, philosophy, and religion. So the theme of alienation and Indianness are the very hinge of on which the whole spirit of the poetry of Nizam Ezekiel turns. Consequently, Nizam is a refugee of spirit in search of dim identity, who tries to experiment with different solution of the sense of alienation. Sometimes he assumes the cover of superiority expressed through irony, as he says in one of his poems, Background Casualty. He says, I quote, they told me I had killed the Christ. That year I won the scripture prize. Critics like Peel also opines that Nizam treats the common and mundane things in his poetic furnace with a powerful and faithful account of social and psycho-spiritual nuances of human life within the framework of Indianness. Albeit influenced by the poets like W. H. Auden, W. B. Yeats, T. S. Eliot, Nazim's poetry bears his individual stamp, highlighting the theme of moral degeneration, spiritual chaos, and alienation expressed in terms of human relationship at the individual, the family, the society, and cosmic level. According to P.S. Kasture, Nazim's poetry is a reflection of our degenerated Indian society with its cultural defilement, ulterior motives, and with fractured vision resulting into loss of all human values, with its chaos and alienation in the personal and social life of men. Even religion, which was once a source of comfort and solace for everyone, it has lost its healing power, as the poet laments when he says, I quote, the more I searched, the less I found. So, in this way, the poet has completely failed to find out anything meaningful or significant in this world all around. For example, in his poem For Alkama, the poet analyzes the contemporary chaos and alienation at the family level in a typical Indian setting. And he concludes that in spite of the erratic behavior of the son, the mother's love keeps the situation calm and under control. As the poet asserts, I quote, my wife's delight as three of us together, unquote. So we find the concept of Indianness in the poem The Night of a Scorpion also, where the poet through an Indian setting like sack of rice and hakim, he presents a world of ignorance and superstition vis-a-vis a world of science and enlightenment. Here the mother is proud of the sacrifice when she says, I quote, thank God the scorpion picked on me and spared my children. Unquote. Here, the Indian faith is shown a complex mixture of metaphysical beliefs and superstitions, whereas the father's reaction is essentially urbanized, and the appeal of the magic is older than that of religion and science. But the power of the maternal love is more ancient than all these three. So the endless flow of the rain symbolizes the endless flow of life and that of a scorpion. It also symbolizes the basic human suffering in man's life. Nazim is not forgetful of the fact that, I quote, I am not a Hindu and my background makes me a natural outsider. Circumstances and decision relate me to India, unquote. In the poem, The Visitor, the crowing of the crow for three times foretells the coming of some guest as per Indian folk belief. However, the poet receives an idler who is an empty-handed and come to while away his time, which in turns leads to disillusionment and sense of alienation in human relationship. Even the most unifying force of love seems to have lost its sanctity, and it degenerates into lust. Hence, one of the recurrent themes in Ezekiel poetry is the theme of malice, which is the ultimate outcome of the dehumanizing forces and selfish motive rampant in the society all around. As the poet says in the poem Declaration, I quote, barbaric city with the sun-deprived obsession, its hawker iron lung. So, in this way, after making a close and incisive study of Nazim Ezekiel poetry, we can safely and rightly conclude that the whole poetic world depicted by Nazim Ezekiel illusionment and alienation. where the poet finds why the world is fighting, fighting. So the themes of alienation, isolation, spiritual sterility, moral vacuity, and lust constitute the central thematic stream where the poet seems to engage in an endless quest for identity by carrying on an eternal discourse with the reality all around. So we come to know that Nizam Ezekiel, as an Indian poet, he has depicted the Indian sensibility in true sense of words, and which is the topic of our conference also today, and that sensibility in Indian, you can say, works. So Indianness cannot be separated from, we can say, the works of the Indian poets. So the sensibility associated with the Indianness, it makes all the writers of the, you can say, India, that they are very much engaged, or they are very much, you can say, bound to, they are deep rooted to their own culture and own environment in the society. So that was all about my lecture today. Thank you very much. Hello. Sodke sir, I have completed my discourse.
Welcome you all in this one-day national level online conference on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English, organized by Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Telhara, Department of English, IQAC, and Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal. All friends, when we speak about Indian sensibility, it is not only about national identity, it is not only about tradition, culture, and our wonderful civilization. It is not about the way we live and the way we conduct ourselves. It is not only about the best of religions as well. What is Indian sensibility? And what is that thing when we are specific to a certain context, Indianness in Indian English literature? Indian sensibility is an idea that strikes one's mind and compels the emotional outburst in a person to relate to the element involved in a particular event. In this case, it is literary work. While Indianness as an idea can be a perfect mixture of all things mentioned above, anything can constitute the simple idea of Indianness until it connects the reader minds with India. We can also easily understand that Indian sensibility is not merely an idea. Indian sensibility in Indian English literature is an action that attracts reaction from the readers. Indian sensibility is about unfolding values and history of in a literary work that has originated, evolved and transported on the Indian soil. Krishna and Ram and their teachings, when they appear in poetry mostly, constitute Indianness in Indian English poetry that is admired and loved by the readers at large. a poor man's survival and still helping another, a fellow in need, constitute Indianness in a story or a novel that does not only draw pathos in the heart of the readers, but also lets them revel in the depth of the Indian philosophy that inspires us to live for others. These types of conference offer you the opportunity to meet other people who boost your interest. Conference widens the horizons thought. Conference discussion offer chances to debate issue related to the field, share experiences, and exchange perspectives. The exchange of ideas on field of interest seeds the link of for future collaboration across the world. It is an opportunity to expand the knowledge that one has and upgrade performance. Conference bring together people who share a common discipline from different parts of the world, bringing different form of the ideas which build into something greater. Another common reasons for attending a conference is no doubt publication. Meeting new people with different culture and disposition enlightens your way of thinking in your field of study. You will witness some of the many different aspects and solutions which exist on the same issues. Academic conference will keep you updated on new findings that have taken place. This is in fact one of the major reasons why one should attend an academic conference. For students and researchers, academic conference help to make research on a particular subject easier. I am very confident about the fruitful outcomes of this conference. The topic of conference will provide participants a good amount of literature to write something on Indian sensibility. Thanks all of you who is the participation and guidance to this conference and attend to this program. Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightened speech.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Honorable Advocate Gajandrao Khedkar sir, Chairperson of this inaugural function and Vice President of Sri Shivaji Education Society, for your presidential speech on this occasion. Thank you once again, sir. Now I request Professor Nishigandha Sato, sir, Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dundadekar, sir. So it was a very nice experience to have this inaugural session here, which is organized on the occasion of one-day national level virtual conference on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. So I take this opportunity to extend my vote of thanks to Sri Advocate Gajandrao Khedkar, who chaired the inaugural function and whose motivational speech made us to focus on the various issues which may be the objective of organizing this such type of conference here. Thank you, Khedkar sir, for being the chairperson of inaugural function. Then I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Dinesh Kumar sir from Dayal Singh College, Karnal, who enlightened us, and with his informative speech, he spoke about the Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. Thank you, sir, for being the resource person, for being the inaugural address here. Besides that, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Muralidhar Wadekar, sir, and Dr. Basist Saube, sir, for being a part of this inaugural function. And on behalf of the chairman of this inaugural function, I declare that the inaugural function is over. Thank you very much, sir. It's over to you, Surke sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Now the inaugural session is over. Now we are towards the first technical session. Now I request Professor Nishiganda Sato, sir, to start the first technical session.
Okay.
Over to Professor Nishiganda Sato, sir, to start the first technical session.
Thank you, sir. So welcome all, a very warm welcome to one and all. Myself, Nishiganda Sato from Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, heartily welcome you in the first technical session of today's virtual conference on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. So this is a joint venture by Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, and Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal. So this conference focuses on, particularly this has been organized to focus on the issues related to the realistic portrayal of Indianness in Indian writing. This national e-conference, I'm sure that would certainly cater to the critical thinking and creativity of the researchers and faculties to share their views and to retrospect the rich and varied heritage of Indian life, culture, and society as described in the contemporary genres of Indo-Anglian literature. So for this first technical session, I would like to request Dr. Vijay Darane sir, who is a principal from late Dattatray Kusatkar Arts College, Nangaon, to be in chair for this first technical session. Dr. Darane sir, welcome sir. Then I would like to request Dr. Amar Singh, Professor and Head Department of English, Government College Chand, Chhindwara, to be virtually present as a keynote speaker for this session. Dr. Amar Singh sir, you are cordially welcome, sir. So before moving ahead for the keynote speech, let us know today's keynote speaker. Dr. Amar Singh is presently working as a professor and head department of English at Government College Chand, Chhindwara, Madhya Pradesh. He is an MA English, PhD. He is also MA in Hindi and Sanskrit. He has a total experience of 28 years and is a chairman of Board of Studies, Chhindwara University. He is a PhD guide of RDVV Jabalpur. His areas of interest include personality development, motivational lectures, communication skill, youth employability, expertise, and women empowerment. He has delivered 1,500 motivational lectures and worked as a resource person for 500 seminars, webinars, conferences, workshops, and refresher courses on different global issues. His articles have been published in many national and international journals also. He is the PhD thesis examiner of many universities across the states. He has the privilege of getting Akshar Mitra Sanman of MP Literary Mission and Icon of Chhindwara Honor for SVEEP Plan of Election Commission of India. So such a man we have got as a resource person for this first technical session. So now I take this opportunity to request Honorable Dr. Amar Singh sir to enlighten us on Indian consciousness in Indian English literature. Sir, please, it's over to you, sir. Dr. Amar Singh sir.
Sir, you are not audible. Sir, please unmute yourself. Your mic is on mute.
Amar Singh sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now I am audible, sir?
Yes,
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Proceed. You are audible.
Whenever there is a problem, kindly remind me. The topic of today's national webinar is Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. At the outset, I want to thank Dr. Gopal J. Dhole, Principal Gopalrao Khedkar College, Gadegaon, Telhara. I think this is the correct pronunciation. I also want to thank Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary, sir, Principal Art and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, District Buldhana. I also want to thank Dr. Rahul Sudke, Head Department of English. Dear friends, today we are going to discuss Indian sensibility. So first of all, what actually the Indian sensibility is, we must understand. Indian sensibility means the authors, when the Indian authors, they may be residing in foreign countries or in their own country, native country, the author's feeling of being an Indian, whether he lives in India or lives abroad, when he thinks in his individualized, patronized way of his cultural values. Culture, I think culture is the in the center of Indian sensibility, of any other country's sensibility. So this Indian sensibility reflects background in all the works of the Indian English writers. Whatever the genre, it may be any genre of literature, maybe poetry, drama, fiction, short story, and even essays also. This unique identity of Indian author is reflected everywhere. It is found everywhere, maybe in the individualized form or maybe with the collective consciousness, collective Indian consciousness. Dear friends, poetry is a product of an exquisite sensibility and respond to complex emotional or aesthetic influences. So in Indian English poetry also, there is an exquisite sensibility, exquisite Indian sensibility found, how Indians behave emotionally, aesthetically. This sensitivity towards the Indian values, Indian patterns of thinking, Indian ways of responding to any particular situation, it becomes sensory stimuli. The instant response to situations is Indian. That's why there is Indian sensibility in Indian English literature. The Indian English poets incorporate their vision and draw from their own Indian cultural, aesthetic, and consciousness. What do they draw? The very material to compose their poems. Indian English drama also, Indian English drama has caught the attention of global audience. It has made a substantial progress by encapsulating various issues that India has been facing from time to time. our Indian English writers have included Indian historical perspectives also while composing their poems, while writing their dramas thematically. It finds impetus from Indian sensibility, Indian philosophy, Indian myths, and Indian religious beliefs, which attracted the attention of the people beyond the boundaries. Earlier, we were studying English literature, the British English literature. Now we are studying our own Indian English literature. That is a proud thing for we Indians. Through this very Indian sensibility, which we incorporate in our Indian English literature, we get we as Indian get recognition across the border, across the boundaries, across the nations also. That is our individual and collective achievement as a nation also. The major themes of Indian English writers in English are industrialization, urbanization, globalization, modernization, feminism, women empowerment, and changing social dynamics. As we all know that we are a developing country, and very soon we will have the title of the developed countries. So in the field of language and literature also, there are changing social dynamics. So in this way also, we are becoming rich and prosperous day by day. Indian English writers do comment on the social issues like superstitions, poverty, illiteracy, and many other social evils that were eating the vital of the Indian society. There are many social evils also. So the Indian English writers never hesitate in portraying depiction of the evils, the social evils prevalent in India in the 21st century. In this very century, Indian English fiction has new issues, new challenges to address. Any literature, and including the Indian English literature, address what was the condition of society in the past, what is happening in the past, and what improvement do we want in future. So any writer writes from the point of view of these three angles. Literature has undergone enormous change over the years. Different paradigms which are changing over the period. So also especially in Indian English literature, short story writing, English essay writing in English.
महाराष्ट्राचे जे कर्मचारी त्याच्यासाठी असं ना.
The authors are experimenting profusely with writing the sensibility, ultimately, the ultimate end of any writer is to improve the evils in the society, to improve the discriminatory things in the society, to improve the corrupt practices in the society. So are the Indian English writers and authors doing the same thing with different experiments, doing in their different forms of writing. History, myth, science, technology, ecology, environment, gender, politics, all these themes are being told and retold from myriad perspectives in Indian English fiction. Graphic novels. Indian English fiction has given shapes to different types of novels. For example, graphic novels, science fiction, disability novels, pulp fiction, ecological fiction, gerontological fiction, gay, lesbian novels, and such aspects of human life and society. Mulk Raj Anand, R.K. Narayanan, and Raja Rao represented the first flowering of Indian English stories. They responded to Indian nationalist movement. All these three writers were nationalist, humanist writers also. For example, Mulk Raj Anand, he is called the social activist in Indian English writing also. He presented a true vision of Indian life. Another great writer of Indian English fiction and in Indian English short stories, R.K. Narayan, explored the nature of life and reality in his stories, especially the local and provincial environment is found in his short stories. Raja Rao experimented with the forms of stories and English novels. Ruth Pravar Jhabwala had detached involvement with Indian situation, Indian state of the things. Bhavani Bhattacharya's professionalism and the easy readability of his stories brought instant recognition. Keki Daruwala, Anita Desai, Shashi Deshpande, Arun Joshi, and Kamla Das introduced the process of openness in form, reliable and unreliable narration with multiple themes and multiple points of views in their stories. The themes of these story writers revolve around the altering perspectives in man-woman relationship. Over the period, historically also, perspectives in man-woman relationships, alienation in modern life, and the impact of feminism and the feminist theories on the academia some light on Indian English poets and Indian sensibilities. Henry Louis Bibian Dorougio is considered the very first poet in the lineage of Indian English poetry, followed by R.N. Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Sarojini Naidu, Michael Madhusudan Das, and Toru Dutt, among others. This poet Indianizes English in order to reveal typical Indian situations. The theme of vivid panorama of Indian life, scenes just like summers, springs, love, loves, streets, stars, all are found in the writers, in the poets of Indian English poets. They make an album of Indian life. Sarojini Naidu is known as the Nightingale of India. Her popularity rests mainly on her skillful treatment of Indian themes. Nissimajikil is one of the India's most famous English poets. His poems integrate the complexities and anxieties of urban life and depict ordinary human situations and relationships. Another Indian English poet, Tagore's poems depict that the universe is a manifestation of God and that there is no unbridgeable gulf between our world and God's world. Madhusudan Dutt, another Indian English poet, an iconic face of Bengali literature, brought Western forms of sonnets into Indian English literature. He was a prominent precursor of Rabindranath Tagore, and he set the bar very high for future literatures in Bengali. Aurobindo's poems have Indian mystic consciousness of the spiritual unity. The central theme of his poems includes the short lyrics which bind with mystic consciousness that is particularly culturally Indian consciousness. The major themes of Toru Dutt's poetry include loneliness, longings, patriotism, and nostalgia. The blend of two cultures, colonial and native, is what was embedded in Toru Dutt's poetic works. She inherited a Europeanized Indianness through her religious conversion and through the family's European attire and living habits. Trends of the Indian English dramas may be categorized as the realistic, social drama. The realistic social dramas employ the comic and the fantastic, poetic drama, and finally the cluster involving angry plays, absurd plays, and the meaning. In the realm of colors and social status. Kiran Desai, daughter of Anita Desai, deals with a number of themes from eventual rustic life, that is particularly Indian, to Pang's insurgency. She is an outstanding novelist of contemporary Indian sensibility. R.K. Narayan's novels share the very essence of Indian culture in all its true colors. He created Malgudi like Hardy's Wessex. He has Indian settings in his novels and its splendid form. The Guide is his masterpiece. Arvind Adiga's The White Tiger surprised the readers by the realistic presentation of the world of corruption that is prevalent in all realms of Indian life. Anita Desai's novels express Indian feminine sensibility. She reveals the unfair of isolated human beings who are sidelined and cut off from the main streams of life. Vikram Seth deals with harsh realities of past independent India in his novels and transcends the narrow national boundaries. Rajarao assimilates the cultures of both the East and the West in his fictional narratives. His novel Kantapura, his masterpiece, deals with the influences Gandhi and his ideology left in an isolated village during the Indian freedom movement. Bhavani Bhattacharya's novels present day-to-day traditions of tragedies of human beings. His novel, So Many Hungers, deals with the man-made famine of Bengal. This is considered his masterpiece. Manohar Malgaonkar deals with history in his suspense and love in its crude form. Chetan Bhagat is a record-breaking bestseller novelist. He depicts the sad plight of Indian society, which is struggling due to nepotism and corruption. Mulk Raj Anand also. Mulk Raj Anand The evils of untouchability is the main theme of Mulk Raj Anand's novel. Miseries faced by the common humanity, by the poor people, by the untouchables, injustices committed upon the poor sections of the society, humiliations, degeneration, degradations faced by a particular sections of society, which is even visible in modern day society also. That is the theme of his novels and short stories. Indian society is depicted religious hypocrisy, feudal system, East and West encounter, the place of women in society, superstitions, poverty, hunger, and exploitations, lives of poor sections of society, caste, the ill impact of caste, religion in traditional Indian society is very much the theme of his novels. So, dear friends, this was what I want to throw some light on. There is search of meaningfulness in meaningless life, in illusory life. That is the theme of the Indian English writers. Indian world is a mixture of odds and evens. We feel, we express, we respond to particular situations. That response is cultural. That response is symbol of our sanskars. That is our identity. Our Indian English authors have contributed hugely to the pool of English works. This Indian English work is an imprint of our attitudes, patterns, methods, likes and dislikes, ways of living, our association, and our sensibilities. We leave our impact upon the literature of the world wherever we go. Our Indian authors articulate in Indian English, that is our individual contribution. We people, our Indian English writers portray Indianness in several forms. They portray individual consciousness and collective consciousness. There is a deep-rooted imprint of Indian environment, religion, social, economic, political, and educational impacts of Indian society. Many authors have presented these things symbolically, particularly with science. Socio-political background has been depicted in different morals, in different works. The Indian, especially the Indian morality, the Indian corruption system, Indian society, the Indian interior motives, selfish interests, they have been portrayed in poetry, essays, dramas, fiction, short stories. Our Indian English literature is appealing to foreign readers also. There is a sense of universalization in Indian English literature because our authors serve Indian cause, Eastern value being recognized in Western countries also. So, dear friends, Indian sentiments, Indian morality, Indian philosophy, Indian realistic details, the styles of Indian way of living. There is a sense of unified sensibility in all the writings of Indian English authors. Our collective consciousness is reflected everywhere. in all these literary works, the poets, story writers, dramatists, essayists, fiction writers, they depict the mundane Indian realities in their theme with the use of their imagination. They create their own framework of Indianness in their works. There are different perspectives which are found in humanity that is depicted in Indian English writers' writings is the reality of life, that is Indian reality of life. There is typical individual characteristics, theme of alienation is very much there, and there is a similarity. There are some similar and dissimilar things also which have been used in themes also. The East-West encounter the similarities and the dissimilarities. So dear friends and organizers, my listeners, I wanted to share all these things regarding Indian sensibility, Indian consciousness, Indian cultural values, Indian ethos, Indian morality, Indian philosophy, Indian ideas in Indian English writing. Thank you all for giving me this very opportunity to express my views on this very topic. Thanks one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your informative and intellectual analysis on Indian consciousness in Indian English literature. As a participant, I could know from your presentation the different traces of Indian consciousness in literature too. Sir, your comprehensive analysis of Indian consciousness in Indian writing, which touched the entire aspects from Henry Diageo to Chetan Bhagat, was very enlightening. So it was a panoramic view of Indian consciousness, which we could avail. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to request Dr. Vijay Darane, sir, to have the concluding remarks on the keynote speech of the first technical session. Dr. Vijay Darane, sir, please. It's over to you, Darane, sir. Okay, sir. Is Darane, sir? Sir, Darane, sir, is there?
Hello.
Yes, yes, he is there, sir.
Hello.
Yes,
sir.
You're audible.
Video is off, sir, for myself.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Namaskar. Good morning to all dignitaries, delegates, participants, research scholars, and students. I please to put my sincere greetings to honorable members of both the societies, of both the colleges, Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, and Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal. I also put my sincere greetings to Dr. Gopal Dhole, the principal of Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, and Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary, Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, the organizing committee, the eminent speaker, and the efficient staff of both the college. I salute to Dr. Amar Singh, the keynote speaker of this session. I am pleased and happy for the organization of the conference with the topic Indian Sensibility in Indian Writings in English. The topic is really fruitful to the scholars that goes through directly towards the Indian sensibility. Friends, as we know that from our tradition and culture, which intrinsics our morals, values, and ethics. From the ancient Indian writings in English, as well as Marathi, we see many glimpses of sensibility in the writing. There are epics, fiction, short stories, poetry, novels, and dramas. We see the examples of Indian sensibility. We must hats off and adore our literary celebrated authors like Rabindranath Tagore, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, Kamla Das, Girish Karnad, and so on, who touch the Indian sensibility in their Indian writings. Their thoughts helps to enhance our culture, and we are confined to obey our moral values and ethics, which intrinsic to harmonious relationship. Because of the sensibility, we feel a mutual respect, trust, affection, and humility about others. By the sensible teaching, we are also confined our reliability, kindness, spirituality, responsibility, and integrity towards our community and society. Because of these sensible glimpses, we look at our conservation, prosperity, and sensibility towards our nature and environment. The sensible writings in Indian writing in English is very much important for us. Friends, I put my sincere gratitude towards the organizing committee to recognize me as a part of the conference, and special thanks to Dr. Rahul Khedkar, Dr. Gopal Khedkar, and Professor Nishigandh Sathav for their efforts in organizing such a fruitful and valuable conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dharani sir, for your valuable quotes in the concluding remarks of this first technical session. Now, I would like to call upon Mr. Nagesh Ingre sir to extend the vote of thanks, please. Mr. It's over to you, Nagesh Ingre sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. In B of this wonderful event, on behalf of the organizing committee, my heartfelt guest and postgraduate autonomous lead college. Thank you, sir. Thank you for comprehensive and important speech on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. Thank you for being with us. Sincere thanks to the chairperson of One Day National Level Virtual Conference, Honorable Dr. Dharne sir, Principal Late Dattatray Pusatkar Art College, Nandgaon Pet. Thank you, your valuable speech and being with us, sir, for your precious time. A wide round of applause and thanks to all who made the event a memorable one. I especially thank to the organizer and convener, Dr. Rahul Khedkar sir, Dr. Gopal Khedkar sir, Mr. Nishigandh Sathav sir, who has organized such great events, and thanks once again to them. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today, and directly and indirectly those who help us make this event's grand success. Thank you for all. With the permission of chairperson, the first technical session of this virtual conference is concluded. Here I declare. Thank you, sir.
Over to you, sir.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Surke sir, it's over to you, please.
Seminar based on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. Indian culture is the most complex and colorful culture on the planet. The way people look, the way their language, their food, their way of dressing, their music, dance, everything changes every 50 or 100 kilometer in this country. With that quote, I, Professor Abhinav Rao Khedkar, along with our principal, Dr. Gopal Dhole sir, along with our teaching staff, non-teaching staff, and all the students, warmly welcome all the participants in the second technical session of today's virtual conference on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English, jointly organized by Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay Telhara and Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, District Buldana. The keynote speaker of second technical session is Honorable Dr. Amarnath Prasad sir, Professor, Head Department of English, Jagdamba College, Chapra, Bihar. And the chairperson of second technical session is Dr. Gopal Dhole sir, Principal, Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Galegaon, Telhara. Before our keynote speaker begins to address, let me give the introduction about Honorable Dr. Amarnath Prasad sir. Dr. Amarnath Prasad sir, Professor and Head Department of English, Jagdamba College, Jayaprakash University, Chapra, Bihar. Dr. Prasad sir is gold medalist in MA English from BRA, Bihar University, Muzaffarpur. He also served in Indian Army as religious teacher for very brief period. He has credited more than dozen research paper, number of poems published in different books, journals, magazines, newspaper, and presented research paper, delivered a lecture as a chairperson in several national and international seminars and conferences. He edits biannually a literary journal, Unheard Melody, in English, and quarterly magazine, Tumwani, in Hindi. The Saraf and Sun, the journals of English literature. 1 minute. Dr. Prasad has authorized, edited, and co-edited more than 30 books in English literature. Some of well-known books are Anuradha Roy's The God of Small Things, The Critical Study, The Critical Response of R.K. Narayan, Indian Writing in English, Past and Present, The New Approach of English Grammar, and many more. He has written more than 50 books, which are available online on Amazon and Flipkart. Till date, Dr. Prasad sir has published total 73 books. May I now request Dr. Amarnath Prasad sir to address our. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for anchoring such in a very nice way, in a very literary way. I am very much happy today. I feel highly elated today to deliver this keynote address in the second technical session organized by the two colleges of your state. And I am very much indebted and grateful to Professor Dr. Rahul Surke sir, Head of Department of English, who invited me to deliver my keynote address in this August session. And I am also very indebted to some of the other August persons, like the resource person, Dr. Professor Amar Singh, Principal Dr. Gopal Dhole sir, Principal Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary, and convener Dr. Gopal Jandelkar sir, and Professor Nishigant Satao. And I am also very much thankful to all my friends of Maharashtra, like Dr. Basu Gawande, Uddhav Jane sir, Nilesh Tare, Satish Barbudhe, S. Kamble, Satendra Gadpale, Suresh Dhoke. All these friends are very close to me. And earlier, when I have edited some books, they have contributed their valuable articles and papers, research papers on the topic of Indian sensibility, Indian writing, and even in British writing also. So I am very much happy today to deliver on the second session, and this topic, our topic is Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. This is really a very important topic and a very significant topic. It is gaining ground not only in India but all over the world. And you know that Indian is strongly taken roots not only in the past but even in the present, and it is progressing by leaps and bounds in every field. New researches are being done on this topic. So there are so many important topics related to Indian writing in English, like the Dalit literature, like the marginalized literature, East-West encounter, protest literature, and so many, even the psychological upheavals that is going on in the psyche of the characters concerned. So many topics are there, but among them, the most important topic, I think, is the Indian sensibility. So right from the Indian poetry in English, and even in the Indian fiction in English and Indian drama in English, Indian short story in English, and even in biography, you will find that how Indian sensibility play an important role, and they are gaining ground day by day. So this is a very important topic, and already Professor Dr. Amar Singh Ji sir has already delivered a very exhaustive lecture on this topic, and he is a real scholar, and he has touched upon almost all the important themes of Indian writing in English, and so many topics related to Indian writing in English is there, and particularly so far as Indian poetry is concerned, you will find that how the poets of India have expressed their visions, expressed their Indian ethos and Indian visions and Indian philosophy and Indian culture, customs, rites, and conventions in a very poetic manner. That is the thing that matters. Actually, what matters most in literature is not your facts and figures, statements, and some other important knowledgeable things. But what matters most is the way of expression, is the poetic deliberations, your poetic sensibility that counts, that matters ultimately. And so far as Indian writing is concerned, in each and every writer, not to speak of only Indian poets, but even to Indian drama, Indian fiction, and Indian short story, even Indian biography, you will find that the writers have very beautifully deliberated their thoughts and visions, and even their thoughts and visions with the help of some beautiful images, symbols, figures of speech, and connotative way. I mean to say that their poetic sensibility, their expressions of society is not dry and monotonous. Rather, they are highly integrated with poetic craftsmanship. And therein lies the great literature. So far as the Indian poetry, I think, is concerned, the first Indian poet is H.L.V. Dereggio. Now I start with this H.L.V. Dereggio's poetry, that, and you will find that how the patriotic feeling that was gaining ground at that time has got a great connection with the poetry of H.L.V. Dereggio. He has written so many sonnets and so many beautiful poems in which you will find the contemporary picture of the society. And you all researchers, scholars, and students, you know that literature is the mirror of society. So whatever the things that are going on in the society are best reflected in a particular literature. But the thing that is important is to know that how much that poetic truth has been expressed with the help of poetic beauty. That is just recall the two important phrases by Matthew Arnold in his famous essay, essays in criticism, poetic truth, and poetic beauty. So in Indian writing in English, we'll find that two sorts of things are always going side by side. One is arts for the sake of art, and the other is arts for the sake of life. So all sorts of poets are there, all sorts of dramatists and other fiction writers are there who either believe in arts for the sake of art or arts for the sake of life. So in Indian poetry in English, particularly in the poetry of H.L.B. Reggio, we will find a truthful picture of the contemporary society. At that time, India was under the clutches of British rule, and people have little say in their. So at that time, the condition of India was not so good. And he has written a very beautiful poem, My Native Land. Just remember, it is a sonnet. It is in the form of sonnet. And in that poem, he has given a very poetic sensibility, Indian poetic sensibility of the people of the country. And he has imagined the people of the country with a great fowl that is groveling in the dust. It is just like a he has imagined a bird, a hawking bird, whose feathers have been cut down, and so he is groveling in the dust. So this image is very from the Britishers, and already he has imagined poetry as an impassioned person, and he imagined poetry just like a sweet madness. He used the term sweet madness, which Shakespeare also wrote a sonnet that how there are three lunatics in this world, you know, that the lunatic, the poet, and how Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, has also said about fine frenzy and sweet madness in that poem, that how the poets are mad. So you has also presented that generally when the poem is being composed, at that moment the poet is a bit mad. Shakespeare says, just remember the sonnet in which he says that a fine frenzy rolling that glance from heaven to earth and earth from heaven, and as imagination buddies forth the forms of thing unknown, the poet's pen turns them to really nothing, a local habitation, and an important term Shakespeare has given. The same type of feelings has been beautifully projected by H.L.B. Reggio in that poem, poetry, but with some other imagistic variations. It is not just the copy, it is not just the copy of that particular poem, but it is a bit different from that poem. So he has given, actually in Indian writing in English, most of the poets have imitated the Britishers. But so far as their poetic sentiment, their images are concerned, they have taken their images from the soil, from the native land. And these are the things that differentiate their visions to those of the Britishers. They are very much influenced by the romantic poets or modern poets or Victorian poets, no doubt, because we all are product of the British writing. So we are bound to face so many things of the British literature. But the writers of Indian fiction in English or Indian poetry, in each and every drama, in each and every novel, you will find that how the writers dive deep into the great oceans of knowledge and churn out the real self, which is always lies beneath the surface. And they projected and in this way they have created a lot of things. The second important author of Indian poetry in English is Durga, and you will be surprised to know that how at the early age of 21 she left on this mortal earth. She died in a very early age, and recalling us the famous poem by Ben Jonson, it is not growing like a tree. The last line, how Ben Jonson said, that in small proportion we just beauty sees, and in a short measures life may perfectly. This is what we find in the life of Torudat. Though John Keats also lived on this mortal earth for a very short period of time, but Torudat has given a lot of things. And so far as Indian sensibility is concerned, I suggest all the researchers, scholars, and particularly the students hailing from different parts of India in this webinar to please go through the book of Torudat, and you will find that how at this early age she has harbored in her bosom all the Indian sensibility in a very epigrammatic manner. I mean to say that they have been all these Indian ethos and sensibility, particularly the Indian culture and myths, legends, they have been very much presented in her famous book, Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. In that book, you will find so many poems, and in those poems, she has very beautifully projected those ideas. Another book, she has written a sheaf gleaned in French fields. It is though it is a translated work. She has translated some French poets in this book, in this anthology. But you will find the touch, the tinge, the color of Indian sensibility. But because she was very much associated with Indian ethos, she was born in Kolkata, and already she has composed some sonnets also, in which she has presented how she finds a very much a close relation between the East and the West. And her classic work, you know, Our Casualty Tree, and that is a very important poem, often prescribed in the syllabus, various syllabus. I have written a book that is prescribed in Calcutta University, 5 Indian poets in English. And this poem is prescribed in Calcutta University, even in our university also. And I think in most of the universities of the country, this poem, Our Casualty Tree, is because this poem is very important. Because in this poem, the tree is itself a symbol. Here, the writer doesn't speak anything in a very direct manner, but with the help of some beautiful images and symbols, she has projected her ideas of the past and memories of her close connections with Indian people with the help of this tree. Almost all the words and dictions used in this poem are highly suggestive, and they speak a lot. So in that poem you will find, and particularly you will find that how in Indian sensibility, and she is very much learned in Sanskrit language. It is a matter of great surprise, because at this early age, how could she grasp all the important great books like Savitri, Prahlad, and Bittu, and Shravan Kumar, and so many important legendary stories have been written in the ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan. Particularly the story of Shravan Kumar and Eklavya, the story of Eklavya. Please read this book. It is on the net available, and you will find that the words and dictions used by this great writer is really very marvelous. I pay my great salute to this great author of India. So, and you know that in Sanskrit it is said, in Sanskrit literature, it is said that Upma Kalidasasya, Bharav Artha Gauravam, Dandina Padalalityam, Maghe Santi Trevina. There are 3 great writers, Kalidas, who is famous for metaphor. And about Shakespeare, it is said that metaphor is not the dress of thought, but the thought itself. But actually speaking, so far as metaphor is concerned, which is supposed to be the real heart of poetry, and that can be seen in Indian writing. You will find, particularly in the works of Sri Aurobindo, Rabindranath Tagore. Later on, we discuss about all these things. So I mean to say that in a very short period of time, Torudat left her body, but she has contributed a lot to the society and to the nation, and she has become immortal in this field. So the next writer in which you will find the Indian ethos and Indian culture and Indian tradition in a very abundant manner is Rabindranath Tagore, the great poet and dramatist, essayist, critic, philosopher, and whatnot. So he has got Nobel Prize in 1913. And I have read so many books of Rabindranath Tagore. Recently, one of my research scholars has done his research on Rabindranath Tagore and John Keats' poetry. So Rabindranath Tagore was really a great author, and one of my best friend, Dr. Nilesh Tare, has already done his research work on this topic, Rabindranath, and his book has also been published from Sarup and Sons Publications in Delhi. So I have written the book. So Rabindranath Tagore was really a great dramatist. In his dramas also, like the Post Office, his drama presents the Indian culture, the Indian society, and how the child Madhav is aspiring for the life of freedom. And presents a contrast between the two segments of life in a very beautiful manner. And each and every story find that in more than 300 stories of Rabindranath Tagore, you will find that is a very important thing, and that is the cultural situations of India, that how the child philosophy, particularly the children child, Rabindranath Tagore, you will find a teenage, like the story I have read, his famous story, The Postmaster, in which you will find the little child Ratan, and how there is a love developed between Ratan, a special passion for the postmaster, how she serves the postmaster, but ultimately the postmaster left this Ratan alone, and then you will find a great philosophy of Indian philosophy, that is separation, and separation, the philosophy of separation. And the other story, that is the homecoming, is itself very important. And at that story also, you will find the concept of home, that is very, very important. And in this story, Rabindranath Tagore has tried his best to make a difference. Speaking, both are poles apart. I think both are poles apart. A house is made of walls and beams, but a home is made of love and dreams. This is the basic difference. A house is made of walls and beams, but a home is made of love and dreams. So a house is made by hand, but a home is made by heart. This is the difference. And this concept of home has been beautifully presented. Our Indian concept, the love of mother for the child. This is the Indian sentiment. This has been beautifully presented in this very agonizing short story, and that is Homecoming. You must read this story. So I mean to say that the voice of consciousness, that is the other important thing which always haunts in our great religious books. Great religious books, I mean to say, that's Patanjali Yoga Sutra. You will find that how in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the very first line starts that Atha Yoga Anusasana. Patanjali says, defines yoga, that yoga is the control of all the thought waves of mind. That means yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the control of all the thought waves of mind. Now, the question is how to control our mind. It is so agile. So says that abhyas vairagya bhyam tanidudha. So this concept, I mean to say, this Indian concept of the voice of consciousness, how to hear, how to listen, the voice of consciousness has been beautifully presented in his famous poem, Silent Steps, Rabindranath Tagore's famous poem, Silent Steps, in which he says, He comes, comes, ever comes. This philosophical idea has been so brilliantly presented. And what is known as the term unheard melody by John Keats has already termed, unheard melodies. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. The same concept has been presented by Rabindranath Tagore in another way, in some other imagistic variations like silent steps. That here means to say that we always hear the silent steps, but due to the prevalence of mind, we are unable to understand the silent steps, the silent voice, the unheard melodies, and this is why we are bound to face so many problems. Even in Kabir Das poetry, you will say that Atam Gyan Vina Sab Suna, Kya Mathura Kya Kasi, Pani Bich Min Payasi, Amoy Suni Suni Avat Hasi. So such type of problem, Indian problem, has not been spoken, not been written and composed in Indian poetry, particularly Hindi poetry, literature or Gujarati literature or Bhojpuri literature. But these sort of things have always been presented beautifully in Rabindranath Tagore's famous poem. So many poems are there, particularly in Gitanjali also you will find how a relation between the body and the soul, relation between body and God, man and God. So this great philosophical truth has been presented. I mean to say that how poetry is an inspiration. It comes directly from inspired, it is called inspired poetry. So this concept was given by Sri Aurobindo, another important great giant in the field of Indian poetry, in the field of Indian drama, in the field of Indian philosophy, and so in so many other fields also. So far as his plays are concerned, you will be surprised to know that he has written so many plays. Particularly recently, I have read his famous play Vasodata, and already in Sanskrit there is a play by Bhas, Swapna Vasav Dattam. In Sanskrit, it is a Swapna Vasav Dattam, and now this great writer Sri Aurobindo has written the play Vasodata. There is a basic difference. And so far as the poetic sensibility of that our country is concerned, particularly the story of Ujjain, the story of Vasodata, the story of Padmavati, the story of Basantak, these are the four important characters are there in this drama. They have been beautifully presented in Vasodata also. In Sanskrit also, in Bhas, if you compare both Bhas and Sri Aurobindo, you will find that Bhas Bhaso Haso Kavikul Guru Kalidaso, Lord Bhas, it is said. He was so great. Bhaso Haso Kavikul Guru Kalidaso. I mean to say, Bhas says, when the poem starts, I have read both the poems, both these books. I mean to say, Swapna Vasodattam also and Vasodatta by Sri Aurobindo. So in the very first stanza, in Swapna Vasodattam, Bhas says, what he says, I am just abbreviating from this matter, but this is connected. So just listen to me. What he says. He said that Udayan Bendu Suvarnavu Vaso Datta Balau Balasyapam Padmavati Tirna Purnavu Basanta Karmavu Hujau Patam. What a beautiful couplet it is. In this couplet, you will find that there are four great characters of the play. In the very beginning, he is introducing these four characters. But here he has used the fine example of pun. It is a fine example of pun because Udyan here has got double meaning. Udyan is the king. Udyan means ugte hue. Ugte hue, rising sun ko, that is, he is praying for the rising sun. The poet said, the great dramatist Bhas says, Udyan bendo suvarnavu vasav datta valav. Vasav datta. Vasav means wine. वाइन से प्राप्त बल वाले भुजा वाले बलराम जी की भुजाएं जो वाइन पीने से उनकी भुजाएं मजबूत है वो भी हमारी रक्षा करे, हमारे प्ले की रक्षा करे. This is such type of concept which he has given very beautifully, and all the four characters has been introduced, but they have got different meaning. Just like Udayana Bendu Suvarnavu, Vasav Datta Balau Balasyapam, Padmavati Tirna Purnavu, it has another meaning, and already Padmavati is the second heroine of this play. Basanta Karmau, it is the joker with the concept of joker. So Basanta Karmau Bhujau Patam. But if you read Vasavadatta by Sri Aurobindo, you will find that brilliant, that sort of brilliant, because he was highly qualified, highly learned personality. He was a great saint, and whatever he has written, they are inspired. They have come directly from the very omnipotent God, all-powerful God. So that is very, very important. He has not written, but everything comes from God. So it is inspired poetry, inspired writing. So Savitri, Savitri, the great epic. And all it is, Savitri has also been written by Torudat. Torudat has also written Savitri. And Savitri has also been written by Sri Aurobindo. But there is a basic difference. So far as this Savitri by Sri Aurobindo is concerned, it has got epical dimension. It is epic. It has almost all the features of epic. It is the second epic in English literature, just after Paradise Lost. The second epic writer, I think, is from India, not from England. It is our great achievement. It is this great sensibility, Indian sensibility, how we have established ourselves in the world. And so far, Savitri by Torudat is concerned, so it is a short, it has got almost all the quality, but it is not in a refined way, in a short way, in a breezed way, as she has presented Savitri. I have read both the books, Savitri by Sri Aurobindo and Savitri by Torudat. Both books are very good. So the other important poems, small poems, they're like child's imagination, that how in that poem, Child's Imagination, he has given Indian sentiments of childhood. That is very, very important thing, which can be seen in the works of Dickens, in the works of William Blake, child's poetry. It is another important thing which is gaining ground. But if you want to study child's philosophy, you can go to the works of Sri Aurobindo, and his famous poem is Child's Imagination. It is also very important. And so far experience in Blake's writing, we get the contrast between experience and innocence. And the same contrast has been given by Sri Aurobindo in his famous poem, The Tiger and the Deer. Both are representative of two things. One is experience and the other is innocence. So such type of feelings are there. And they have, so far Sarojini Naidu is concerned, in her writings, you will find that technique is perhaps more important than the theme. Sometimes she has presented the cacophonic sound, and sometimes she presents euphonic sound. The sound suggests the sense. This is the greatness in Sarojini Naidu poetry. You have perhaps read most of the research scholars, students, and teachers. Learned teachers are there in this webinar, and they have read the famous poem Plankin Bearer, and how the words and dictions presented by the author has been placed in such a manner that the sound suggests the sense, as if the plankin bearer is bearing the plankin in a very rhythmic way, in a jumping mode, and a rhythmic way. Ups and downs movements are there in that poem. So actually, the grief and sorrow, the distress, the weeping and crying of the bride is best known by the plankin bearer. I'm just remembering a very important couplet which I have met. I am also a Hindi writer. I have composed some poems regarding it. So in this respect, I have this is a very important couplet of 4 lines that रात कितनी बीती ये सितारों से पूछ लो, लहरें कितनी उठी ये किनारों से पूछ लो, दुल्हन की बात बराती क्या जाने, वो कितनी सिसकी ये कहारों से पूछ लो. So the grief and sorrow is best known by the plankin bearer, and this is what we find in Sarojini Naidu, and in a very beautiful and technical manner she has presented all these things. The songs of Radha and the soul's prayer, that is another important philosophical poem which she has written, the soul's prayer, in which there is a dialogue between the body and the soul. The body is raising some questions, and ultimately the soul is giving answers. So here in this poem, we get the philosophical idea of India, the philosophical sentiment, the philosophical ethos in a very beautiful way. And the other important writer of Indian poetry in English is Nissim Ezekiel, who is famous for his two great works, A Time of Change, a very important book, and regarded as a T.S. Eliot of modern time because he has given a very beautiful presentation of urban civilization. And so far, the village life is one poem is very important and very significant, and I like it. The Night of the Scorpion. This poem is often prescribed in almost all the universities. Perhaps in your universities also, it has been prescribed that the Night of the Scorpion. That's how the mother of the narrator is being stung by the scorpion. The last line is full of Indian ethos, Indian sensibility. This is called Indian sensibility. How mother has got a special affection for the child, and she is not fearful of her death, but she is fearful of her child. And when she says at the end of the poem, she says, "Oh, thanks God that the scorpion chose me and spared my child." So this is very important thing, and it contains her deep sentiments, deep affection, motherly affection for the child. So all these poets, I meant to say that even in Kamala Das poetry, you will find that how she is confessional in her writings, how her poems like Introduction, in which she says that I am both saint and I am sinner. I am saint, I am sinner. So such type of oxymoron she has used. Her autobiography in a brief, and she can always be remembered with like confessional writers. So, so in a woman here, the several options, problems of life. Hello. Hello, sir. Is my voice audible or not? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. But there is some disturbance in between my lecture. So there is a problem. So
okay,
please.
sir. No, it will be muted. The mic is muted.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank
Please
you.
continue.
Okay, sir. So the other important poet of Indian writing in English is A.K. Ramanujan. Actually, his famous book, The Striders, or the other book, Lessons. These books are highly suggestive, and they contain Indian situations. How the writer lives in the other country, and how he always aspires for India. So there is a very good relation between his mind and the soul. His soul is rooted to Indian soil, and his mind is rooted to the British land, India, and how he wants to make a connection with Indian people. This is the central theme of most of his poems, particularly his famous poem Plant and the River. You will find part in the poem The River, he has presented the river of India, Baisakhi River, and he has presented the situation of a pregnant woman, how she flooded in that river. So the other poets of great notes of this Indian poetry in English is Sivke Kumar, and I am very fortunate enough to have a snap with Professor Sivke Kumar, and he delivered. I listened his great lecture on Arundhati Rai in 1997 in Anantapur. This was my first conference. first passage he delivered in Anandpur. If some of you have attended that conference, Anandpur in 1997, All India English Teachers Conference, this was my first conference, and I was surprised. I was dumbfounded to listen to such a grand lecture by C.K. Kumar. So he was a great writer. He delivered a lecture on the greatness of Arundhati Rai, how she got the Booker Prize on literature, that the judges of Booker Prize say that on her extraordinary linguistic inventiveness, she was given the Booker Prize on this topic. This is modern poets, and they have presented the sentiments of women, women's sentiment, feminine sensibility in poetry. Though feminine sensibility plays an important role in Indian women novelists, but in Indian poetry also, you will find it is a matter of great research even today, particularly in modern, even we know that in Dalit poetry also, in particularly in Maharashtra and in Gujarat, this literature is gaining ground, and you will be surprised to know that most of the writers say that Dalit literature is just the presentation of the protest literature, but I think that this is not correct. This is simply not a protest literature, but the core is protest literature, but the way of expression of some of the great writers of Dalit literature are very great. They have poetic sensibility, they have poetic craftsmanship, they have presented like Professor M.B. Gajan from Gujarat, like Harish Mangalam, and so many other poets are there in modern time, and they have also presented Indian ethos, Indian presentation, or the Dalit and the deserted, how the Dalit and the deserted are marginalized and how they have to suffer a lot right from the beginning up to the modern time, and how they have sought their existence in an entirely adverse society. And this sort of things has been beautifully presented in some of the. So already I have edited a book on Dalit literature in 2007. So it can be seen on Amazon and Google, Dalit literature, edited by Dr. M.B. Gajan and Dr. Vanar Prasad. So this book, you will find that Dalit sentiments, Dalit poetry is not simply the poetry of protest, but I think it is my personal opinion that it is also a poetry of great literature. So it must be encouraged, and I think that in near future it will certainly make some milestone in the field of Indian writing in English. So so far as the Indian fiction is concerned, you will find that particularly generally we read some novels of Mulk Raj Anand, like Two Leaves and a Bird, Coolie, and The Untouchable, in which we find the Dalit sentiments, how the characters like Munnu and Gangu and Bakha, these are the great characters, and through these characters we find Indian sensibility in a very beautiful manner. But so far as the stories of Mulk Raj Anand is concerned, we get the same type of sentiments, and the Cobbler and the Machine, that is very important sort of story by Mulk Raj Anand, in which he has shown the impact of industry on our cottage industry, and how the village workman is being crushed in the development of industry in the modern time. This is the real theme, the central theme of the story, The Cobbler and the Machine. This is a very important story. So so far as Mulk Raj Anand is concerned, he belongs to arts for the sake of life. In most of the characters seems to be his mouthpiece. I mean to say that Bakha seems to be the mouthpiece of the writer. But so far as R.K. Narayan is concerned, he is entirely meant for arts for the sake of art. His characters are never the mouthpiece of R.K. Narayan. They are as they are. So they have developed in such a manner, such a way that they present a classic interpretation of that is what is known as classicism. That is a dialogue between the present and the past with an eye to future. Dialogue between present and the past with an eye to future. This is what we find in the novels and short stories. An astrologer's day, very fine short story, and the novels, so many novels of R.K. Narayan, and you will find that Indian ethos, particularly in Malgudi days, you will find that Indian classical and classical in a very, very beautiful manner. So I mean to say that R.K. Narayan is the true artist in the true sense of the term, because he has no mouthpiece. And just remember, most of the August persons are there, here learned professor, and I think they have read the Vivian Khajamia's famous book, History of English Literature. In the chapter Shakespeare, at the end of the chapter Shakespeare, what Livian Khajamia said, he says, free of every theory. About Shakespeare, he says, free of every theory. He has no theory at all. Free of every theory, expecting all of life, rejecting nothing, appealing to the most various man, as to a rude workman, as to a wit. Shakespeare's drama is a great river of life and beauty. Shakespeare's drama is a great river of life and beauty. And all who thirst for the art and the truth, the comic and the satire, the tender and the light, can stoop to drink from its water, and almost instant of changing mood finds only one drop to select their thirst. I mean to say, the same thing can be applied to the works of R.K. Narayan. He has no theory at all. No character is the mouthpiece of R.K. Narayan. They are the true picture of art and Indian culture, civilization. So, I mean to say that it is a fine river of both beauty and art. Art and truth, both are there, but they are mingled together in such a manner that they present a fine fusion between the major and the minor terms. So, the other writer, Bhavani Bhattacharya, in which a very classic work, you know, He Who Rides a Tiger, is a very classic, has so many hungers. So many works are there in which you also find the contemporary situation of India, particularly the famine of Bengal and the other poverty and malnutrition of that time. So Raja Rao is but entirely different. He has got his own philosophical idea, and he has presented his philosophical concern, his philosophical vision of India in so many of his novels, particularly his novel Kantapura is supposed to be the microcosm of India. Here the character seems to be the representation of Mahatma Gandhi. And but one thing I think, so far as Indian writing is concerned, I think that recently I have read some Muslim literature that is always unknown to Indian writers, particularly the research scholars should pay attention to such type of things. So many great Muslim literatures are there, but we are generally much more engaged to Shashi Deshpande, Anita Desai, and Arundhati Rai, or Arvind Adiga, or and so many writers like Indian writers. But we should also pay attention to some great achievements done by the Muslim writers in India, which is always a neglected field. Recently, I have read the famous novel by Ahmad Ali, who later on lived in Pakistan and born in India in New Delhi. He has presented the culture of India, the ethos to be Indian sensibility. The topic is Indian sensibility. And if you want to know Indian sensibility, historical sensibility, colonial sensibility, the East and West encounter sensibility, you must read this great novel, Twilight in Delhi by Ahmad Ali. You will find that the Muslim culture, their habits, their rites, customs, and so many things related to their situation have been very beautifully printed in this great work. Particularly the kids in the street of New Delhi, they have been novel. important characters. One is me, the hero, and Bilqis, the heroine, and we find so there. But the most important thing is culture. And you know, Homi Ke Bhava has written a very important concept, the location of culture. That should be applied in modern research. Particularly, you must read this book and has become vocal. How Delhi has become a character in Ahmad Ali, and how Johara, another great novelist written by Jinnat Fateh Ali. It is the culture of Ahmedabad. It is the culture of Hyderabad. Hyderabad Muslim culture has been beautifully projected by Jinnat Fateh Ali in her famous novel Johara. It is also a very classic one. And one should read and enjoy the beauty, the language, the charm, the sensibility, all are there, and particularly the East-West encounter is there, very beautifully presented. In this novel, Johara, you will find that how the heroine, Johara, has to suffer a lot from the very beginning to the end, and how her aspirations to become a poet, to become a great man, is being choked by the patriarchal domination. How the patriarchy is dominating over the wishes and aspirations of this persecuted woman. This is the central idea of this great novel, Johara. You must read this novel, Johara. So, other Muslim literature, you know, that is a Ruswa's novel, you know, Hadi Ruswa, Mirza Hadi Ruswa has written the great novel that is Umrao Jan Ada. This is again the culture of Lucknow. The Lucknow culture, the Muslim culture of Lucknow, the partitions, their way of writing, the music, how music and poetry was gaining ground at that time, and how the music and poetry which is ingrained in that particular literature is being despoiled later on, and we do not take attention, we do not pay attention to such type of things which is losing day by day. So this sort of Muslim culture, this sort of rich musical things which is being done by the partisans of Lucknow has been very beautifully presented by Umrao Jan Ada, a great book by Mirza Hadi Ruswa. And this book has been translated by Khushwant Singh. And I have read recently this book. Here is this book, Umrao Jan Ada, translated by Khushwant Singh. So in this book, you will also find the Muslim culture in a very beautiful manner. I mean to say that most of the time we generally do research and do deliver lectures on particular topic, general topic, and we deliver lectures on the common topics. But actually, the main motto of research, I think, is that we should write and we should develop our poetic sensibility or our thoughts towards those things which are often untouched. So those untouched things must be interpreted in a new manner, and Indian sensibility should be done in a new way. So, so far as already Professor Amar Singh sir already has delivered his lecture on particularly on Arundhati Rai, the god of small things. And I think that so far as the women sentiments and particularly the how woman is being a great sufferer, Amu, the heroine of the Untouchable, and how Bhelutha, an untouchable, has been beautifully presented by Arundhati Rai in a new, different way. So, in that novel, you will find a contrast between the Lalten and the Mombatti. These are the two important symbols through which Arundhati Rai has presented the Indian ethos in a beautiful manner. One is Lalten. He has written the word Lalten, coined the word Lalten, Laltin. The chapter is the big man, the Lalten, a small man, the Mombatti. What a beautiful images she has taken, Lalten, which is well fed, well protected. It can easily face the surge of the wind. There are some people in the society, we are well fed, wealthy people, and all the crimes they do got free and they are not punished. There are such type of people in the society, and like Inspector Matthew and so many political figures are there in this novel. And on the other hand, there are some certain people who are just like Mombati, who cannot face the surge of the wind, and who are poor people. So it is a contrast between the rich people and the poor people, between the rough and the refined, between the high and the low. Very beautiful manner. So far as the words and diction, new words, new Indian words, as she has coined so many words in that. Just take for example, she has used the word dhobi. Dhobi, you know, washerman. She has never used the word washerman. But she says her face was about about Ammu. She says, Arunati Rai said, her face was as wrinkled as a dhobi's thumb. Already italics, she has written in italics. So actually, she here by this phrase, she means to say that her face was as wrinkled as not a washerman from the big city or big soap, a villager, very wrinkled. So here the villager symbols which she has used are with Indian sensibility. So there is a lot of time and a special lecture should be arranged next time, and I will deliver on a special occasion. It is a lot of time. So now I close up my lecture with my research scholar students, marginalized literature. Such type of work should be done in future so that our Indian sensibility could be enhanced. Once again, I congratulate, I give my sincere thanks to all the organizers and conveyors and all the great persons participating in this seminar. So all of you, thank you very much, sir. All of you, all my students and all the research scholars, I extend my blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightened guidance to all the participants as well as the student. I express thanks to you for your gracious as a resource person delivering your keynote address. It will be great pleasure to us to you again in listen in the future event. I also like to thanks our principal, Dr. Dhole sir, for become chairperson of a second technical session. Now I will hand over validatory function to Nagesh Chingle sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I take this opportunity to welcome each one of you to the valedictory function of one-day national level virtual conference, which is on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English. This is an immensely exciting afternoon for us. Let me first acknowledge the presence of eminent chairperson and guests. It is indeed our pleasure to have among us the chairperson of the valedictory function. I heartily welcome to Honorable Dr. Gopal Dhole, Principal Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, Telhara. I heartily welcome to Honorable Advocate Vishwasrao Nerkar, Life Member, Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, as the chief guest of this valedictory function. I heartily welcome to Honorable Dadarao Patrikar, Life Member, Sri Shivaji Education Society, Amravati, as the chief guest of this program. And I sincerely welcome Dr. Sanjay Tale, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce as a chief guest of this program. I also welcome Dr. Jagdish Joshi sir, with us in this valedictory functions and throughout this program. So I request a word welcome is the first sign of the hospitality. Word of welcome fill an occasion with warmth. Sanjay Tale to deliver. Sanjay Tale sir, over to you.
all
Sir,
dignitaries
come
and
in range.
I'm audible.
Sir, you are not audible.
येतोय का माझा आवाज?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, continue right now. You are audible.
Audible? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Continue.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon and warm welcome to all honorable dignitaries and respected participants participating in this one-day virtual conference. And my District Akola and Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, District Buldana. And special thanks to the convener, Honorable Dr. Gopal Jondadekar sir, Honorable Dr. Rahul Khedkar sir, and Professor Nishiganda Sato sir. It is an honor and great pleasure to be here as a chief guest in this one-day virtual conference on Indian sensibility in very presentations given by the very distinguished and eminent keynote speakers. One of the keynote speakers, Honorable Professor India drive into people come back new ideas and actions. The one more distinguished gathering of it is also difficult coming in at the end where everyone who is on the subject with the participants. When we have all manners of reasons, all manners of explanation. Very good attempt was made to tell us something that we might not have heard or we might not have been.
Hello. आता आहे का? Indian chief trait is also found in the characteristics of Indian sensibility. In his
speech, Mr. Professor Nishikanda Sato has quoted that Indianness is shown by focusing on the portrayal of the realistic details. Indian sensibility is seen in Indianization of English language. Indian society are becoming pluralistic and multicultural in the postmodern time. Finally, I would like to say that English writer style is Indian and genuine and individual rather than merely correct and competent. It becomes more Indian both in its themes. And lastly, I would like to thank all those who have been involved in this virtual conference. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable opinions you have delivered, sir, in this in your speech. So I request Dr. Jagdish Joshi, sir, please put your remark on the occasion. Dr. Joshi, sir, I request to Dr. Jagdish Joshi, sir, put your remark on the occasion.
Exactly. Sorry, what you are saying, sir?
Sir, your remark about the conference, the conference.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
welcome. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to congratulate the organizers for organizing such a informative conference. And really, I feel very privileged to be a part of this. And particularly the sessions which have been selected for keynote and the inaugural, they were also very impressive, and they have given us insight about literature. And this is something which is a need of the day. When such institutions like you organize this, we must congratulate and we must appreciate your efforts. So on behalf of all the participants, I congratulate and appreciate your efforts for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your remark about virtual conference, which conference we are dealing with it. So now I request.
Audio.
Yes. Now I request the president of the valedictory function. Now I request the president of valedictory function, Honorable Dr. Gopal Dhole, sir. The principal, Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon.
Mute काय को करना?
Please express your presidential address here.
Can I audible, sir?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
I welcome to this valedictory function of one-day national level virtual conference on Indian sensibility, Indian writing in English, organized by Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar Mahavidyalay, Gadegaon, Telhara, District Akola, and Arts Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, District Buldana. Chairperson of this session, Advocate Vishwasrauji Nerkar Sahib, Life Member Sri Shivaji Education Society Amravati, Chief Guest Dr. Sanjay Ji Tale, and Chief Guest Sri Dadaraji Patil Patrikar, Life Member Sri Shivaji Shikshan Samstha Amravati, and all participants and delegates. The national level virtual conference is a great event organized today as very informative and fruitful effort by the Department of English, both colleges, and IQAC of both colleges. The chairperson of the inaugural function, Honorable
Advocate Sri Gajanrao Khedkar guided us on the occasion. Professor Dinesh Kumar also delivered his speech as a resource person. We will thankful of all delegates to participate in conference. The keynote speaker, Dr. Amar Singh and Dr. Amarnath Prasad ji delivered their speeches. It was really a very informative experiences. The conference was very fruitful and successful effort to faculty members and researchers as well as students and students of English literature and all participants and stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I request to Dr. Gopal Khedkar sir express a vote of thanks on this occasion.
Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to thank to Advocate Gajanrao Khedkar sir, Vice President of Sri Shivaji Education Society, who presided over the inaugural session today and delivered his informative speech on the occasion. I am also thankful to Honorable Dr. Murlidhar Wadekar sir, Joint Director of Higher Education Amravati Division, and Chief Guest Honorable Dr. Vasishtha Chobe sir, Chairman of Board of Studies, Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University Amravati, for their gracious presence. In the first technical session, we have among us the great personality and a great orator, Honorable Dr. Amar Singh, as a keynote speaker from Postgraduate Autonomous Lead College, Hindwada, Madhya Pradesh, who delivered his keynote address in the first technical session for his profound knowledge and information that which we are benefited. And I am very much thankful for his gracious presence and delivering a speech on this in this first technical session. In the second technical session, Dr. Amarnath Prasad sir, Honorable Professor and Head of the Department, Jagdam College, Chhapra, Bihar, he also remained present, and I am very much thankful to him for his informative and very thoughtful speech. In the valedictory session, Advocate Vishwasan Nerkar sir, Honorable Dadarao Patil Patrikar sir, Honorable Dr. Jagannath Chaudhary sir, who attended, guided us on the occasion. I'm thankful to the virtual conference on Indian sensibility in Indian writing in English colleges. Professor Dr. Principal Dr. Sabu sir, Principal Dr. Rameshwar Bhishe sir, Principal Dr. Vijay Darne, Principal Dr. Sunil Pandey, Principal Dr. Kiran Khandare sir, Principal Dr. Gopal Dole sir. This advisory committee, I am personally very much thankful to all of them. Apart from that, the technical support committee comprises Dr. Krishna Ananda Mahure sir, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Political Science of our college, and Professor Abhinav Punkar, and Mr. Amol Geber, Abhijit Lokhande, and Nagesh Ingre sir. I am also thankful to Professor Dr. Sudke sir, for Head of the Department of our college, and Professor Dr. Nisigandha Satwa sir from Arts and Commerce College, Warwat Bakal, for their extensive effort they have taken for the organization of this virtual conference as a fruitful effort. This was the great experience, and many delegates and stakeholders were benefited by this by the organization of this virtual conference at the national level. Once again, I am thankful to our patron, chief patron of our Sri Shivaji Education Society, Honorable President Honorable President Sri Harshvardhan Deshmukh Sahib, for their moral support, and all the executive members of our society who supported us for the successful organization of this great event. Once again, I am thankful to all both the colleges, staff of both the colleges for this successful event. Once again, I thank all. Thank you very much. Over to Pundkar, sir.
Hello, am I? Thank you. I'm very thankful on the behalf of Dr. Gopalrao Khedkar College, Telhara. I am cordially thankful to all participants that they have participated in this conference. And I would like to announce one thing, that the feedback link will be shared in the WhatsApp group shortly. Thank you very much. And the WhatsApp group link is already shared in the chat box. Please be noted. Thank you.